Here's a strange thing about building wealth gradually. You're usually the last person to notice it's happened. The accumulation is so slow, so incremental, so tied up in years of decisions that each felt small, that the financial position you're in today tends to feel more or less like the one you were in several years ago, even when the numbers say something very different. You're still running on an older mental model of yourself, still making the same unconscious assumptions about what you can and can't afford. Other people, though, the people watching from the outside, who don't have access to your internal narrative but do have access to your behavior, your choices, the things you do and don't worry about, those people have often already noticed. And if you know what to look for, you can trace the moment they noticed. Sign 1, people started asking for your opinion on money. There's a specific shift that happens in social groups when someone starts building real financial momentum, a shift from person who needs advice to person who gives it, that tends to happen so gradually the person at the center of it doesn't notice until they look back. If you think about the last year or two, and try to remember when people started asking what you thought about their financial decisions, whether to buy the house, whether the investment made sense, whether to take the job that paid less but offered equity, that moment was a signal. People don't ask the question of just anyone. They ask the person in the room whose relationship with money they've read, consciously or not, as something worth consulting. And if multiple people started asking you around the same time without any coordinating conversation you were part of, they'd independently arrived at the same assessment of where you stood. Sign 2, the tab assumption changed. Think about a dinner, a round of drinks, a weekend away, a moment when the question of who was paying got settled without being discussed. Without anyone saying anything. Without you offering. Just a quiet assumption that resolved itself in your direction. This is one of the subtler social calibrations that happen as wealth builds, and it's remarkably consistent across contexts. The person who ends up paying without being asked isn't always the person with the most money in the room. It's the person the room has unconsciously assessed as the most comfortable absorbing the cost. And that assessment doesn't come from anything you've said about your finances. It comes from 100 small signals: the car you arrived in, the way you looked at the menu, the